what legal punishment could be awarded in the backdrop of the law which was blatantly violated in the federal capital.
There are various measures that are being considered against this political party and also their government in KP as well, where the majority had actually voiced their opinion during that cabinet meeting.
The imposition of
the governor rule.
The legal options to ban a political party, please.
Having said that, what PTI has done, or this particular political party has done
thus far, 24th, exactly.
Thus far, I mean, all the events leading up to 24th, it's not just the 24th, but time and again.
All other events associated with
everything combined together, Mateen, they've actually made it very possible for this party to be banned.
The last week that has been full of events in Islamabad. The capital city was sealed.
This is not the first time they've actually done this. This is probably strike 3, and the government has now had enough. What we find problematic with this particular political party is its ways of protesting. But the actual plan in mind was to actually get into the parliament, into the National Assembly somehow.
This was the
final destination.
How would you like to comment on their allegation of the killing of their workers by the law enforcement agencies?
This is a blatant and an absolute lie. They're lying through their teeth.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello and welcome to program Insight NB News English. Dear viewers, you have witnessed recently a tense political atmosphere in Pakistan's federal capital, Islamabad, where a PTI-led march finally led to a situation that was extremely unlawful. Unlawful in the sense that the protesters brought by Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf turned violent against the state. And state, in order to protect the private and the public property of federal capital, also resorted to action and finally prevented these protesters from damaging the private and public property. Of course, under the law and the constitution, holding peaceful protest is the right of any political party. If any political party has any reservations, any genuine reservation on any issue, so constitution and law does permit a political party to hold a peaceful protest, to hold a peaceful rally, to hold a peaceful march. But the law doesn't permit a political party to bring violent workers to the state. And when they come over to federal capital Islamabad by holding weapons and these all things, then of course state will not remain silent. In the backdrop of recently PTI's march towards Islamabad, finally the protesters reached to the D Chowk and it led to the clash between police and PTI protesters. In the backdrop of that, there have been 2 meetings chaired by Pakistani Prime Minister. In one meeting, the Prime Minister decided that there will be a force at federal level and it will be called Federal Reserve Force to deal or to crush with the violent political mob, and it is called Rights Police. And today again there was another meeting chaired by Prime Minister, attended by cabinet ministers, and it was also attended by Chief of Army Staff General Asim Munir. The meeting overall reviewed the law and order situation in the capital in the backdrop of PTI's march 3 days ago. So it was decided that all those who have been involved in breaking the law, in taking law into their hand, the state will deal with them very strictly. To discuss these all, today we are fortunate to have in our studios Advisor Law and Justice to Prime Minister of Pakistan, Barrister Aqeel Malik. Very warm welcome to program Insight NB News English. First, how you see the last week that has been full of events in Islamabad. The capital city was sealed, and in the past your own party PMLN has been marching. They held rallies, long marches. Pakistan People's Party also had long march long time back. Allama Tahirul Qadri was also at the same D Chowk, but it remained very peaceful. So why this particular political party, as I said in the beginning, that it's their political right to have rally, to organize protest within the parameters of law. But what went wrong actually?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much, Mateen Saab. It's always a pleasure to be on your show, and
always
certainly,
welcome.
With regards to the events that are actually unfolded over these last few days, very unfortunate, I must say, because we've seen the officials of the law enforcement agencies lose their life, and they were martyred by the goons, and that's I'm not actually saying this lightly, because there was a mob that was actually brought to the capital. That mob was unleashed. And after unleashing that mob, it was uncontrollable for that particular political party as well, and its leaders.
And led by Chief Minister of a province.
Exactly. I mean, this is what you see.
Unprecedented.
Very, time and again. This is not the first time they've actually done this. This is probably strike 3, and the government has now had enough. Now, I think the people of Pakistan have also had enough of these, protests day in, day out. Of course, nobody's stopping them from protesting. Right to peaceful protest is a constitutional right that is, of course, well respected and well regarded within, not just in our constitution through our courts, but also is respected by the government as well. Having said that, what we find problematic with this particular political party is its ways of protesting, because it's not just a peaceful protest. They time and again say, yes, it's our constitutional right, and we will hold a peaceful protest. But when you see their supporters and people coming with them, whether that's members of the banned outfit, militants, terrorists.
They were part of it.
Of course, as you can see through various videos doing rounds on social medias, they had this group of 3 to 4 cars, or Hiluxes, rather to say, or
vehicles full of such items,
full of bandits who were wearing scarves on their face, so they were hiding their identity. They were clearing the road throughout for the protest to then follow course, and then not just this, but also they directly fired at the law enforcement agency personnel, so as to clear the roads and make it possible for them to reach.
And scores of media persons, cameramen, media DSNGs were also attacked, who were neutral and who were just there to cover the event.
I will certainly be touching upon that, and I'll be covering on that, because a very unfortunate incident took place at the National Press Club as well, where 50 to 60 of these individuals belonging to this particular party, they tried to barge in, and they were stopped. Of course, they ransacked one of the private televisions channels, the building of that private TV channel, but also another one adjacent to it as well. So this is what you see, because they wanted to reach D Chowk, but the actual plan in mind was to actually get into the parliament, into the National Assembly somehow.
This was a final
destination. And we have credible reports where this was the main aim, so as to just like
capture the parliament building.
To capture the parliament, just like the Capitol Hill incident that took place in Washington DC. So of course, we see this sort of protest, which is against the law, which is unlawful, which is patently illegal and cannot be permitted and cannot be allowed. So as to continue these sort of protests, where you state that it's a peaceful protest, but you bring people that are not just militants or members of the terrorist organizations, but also are fully armed, whether that's including stones, whether that's including ammunition, whether that's including sticks with nails on them. So of course they were fully armed, and they knew perfectly well what they were doing. They were cognizant of the fact where they had to be and what they had to do in order to get to their final destinations.
You have a law background. Tell us, our international viewers, there is a law that is called Section 144, and that Section 144 is imposed particularly to deal with law and order situation and to protect the private public buildings and to prevent such mob. If that Section 144 is violated, despite the fact that couple of days before it was announced that there is 3 months Section 144 imposition in Federal Capital. So if that law is violated, what is the punishment?
There's the law itself, of course, it's from the colonial era, and we've
Section
actually
144.
Derived our law, from the colonial times, of course, when we were a British colony. But at the same time, Section 144 empowers the district administration so as to regulate, the area or the territory where it's imposed, where it could be imposed, which is under their command or administration. It could be for a number of days, it could be for hours, or it could also be for
no specific
months as well.
limit.
There's no specified timeline, so as to say. However, having said that, it is a preventive measure, of course, so as to maintain public order. And when you want to maintain public order, and of course, the district administration is that's their duty and that's their job to do so. Anybody who violates this, whether it's imposed so as to disperse any sort of public gathering or law and order situation to deal with unlikely or untoward events that then, of course, are due to the fact that there's a huge public gathering which could be then unlawful. So, of course, this is then, if this is violated, then the police authority has the prerogative to file a first information report and bring about the criminal charges against those individuals who are then caught during this situation. So the maximum sentence for this is 6 months, either with fine or both, or either or. In this situation. But at the same time, we see that many a times, Section 144 is flouted. But we also had a number of judgments from the Supreme Courts where they said that this no longer serves as a preventive measure or as a measure so as to regulate a law and order situation or to control that law and order situation. So we've had those judgments where from the high courts, whether that's the Supreme Court or the High Court, where time and again the judges have also said that this is a futile exercise. So I think maybe with all the amendments that we are bringing in into the Criminal Procedure Code, I think this is also one of the areas that we need to further work on and strengthen this particular section itself.
So the entire social media and the social media activists of this party, most important content which is in their statements and videos, that scores of their workers got killed. They are alleging that state killed them, these law enforcement agencies. Being a senior member of the government party, PMLN, and advisor to the Prime Minister, how would you like to comment on their allegation of the killing of their workers by the law enforcement agencies?
This is a blatant and an absolute lie. They're lying through their teeth. And the reason for that is they have now come up with these lists of people.
Exactly.
And that they claim that they were martyred and were members of their party. But at the same time, when there's fact-checking and there's verification of that list, in one of the cases, I saw it on media and one of the TV channels and the program that was being done, one of the fact-checking journalists had actually gone to that address, tried to locate that person on that list who had allegedly been martyred by the government. And then there was nobody. The person did not reside at that address. The person was not from that village or that town or perhaps from that city. And it's just an absolute lie because this party, of course, we have martyrs. The 3 rangers from the law enforcement agencies, one policeman,
to death,
one FC official. Those are the real martyrs. Nobody's talking about those martyrs. Nobody's actually saying that these are the martyrs, that were actually due to the actions or the negligence of this political party or the people of this political party, that those martyrdoms took place. But nobody's actually talking about that. Nobody's somber on those on the deaths of those martyrs. Of course, these are lists that are fake and they've come about with various names that are unverifiable. And also a greater responsibility that the media holds There's a code of conduct. There's an ethical conduct that needs to be followed. I was extremely disappointed in some
was
media
it shown
outlets
on the regular
as well.
media?
Indeed, but also at the same time, there's this international media. There's one outlet. There's one outlet from a particular international media that actually carried all of this information
one-sided picture
without verifying any facts, whether from the other side or not. But
government
also without,
was not incorporated.
Not just the government view, Mateen Sahab. I fail to fathom how can this be reported without verifying the facts at hand. When you say that at 5 p.m. live shots or rounds of shots were fired, but of course no such operation took at 5 p.m. The Guardian is stating again I'm naming the Guardian here because obviously I'm going to be quoting from the Guardian here. The Guardian stated that all those claims made by PTI of all these hundreds or thousands of martyrs that they're claiming that their supporters have been martyred, but of course they're unverifiable. We cannot verify. There's no evidence. Does it appeal to a reasonable, prudent mind that when the government is being alleged to have actually held a massacre, or is being alleged to have committed a massacre.
This is what they are claiming.
Hide this overnight? You can't. You have no casualties. You have no deaths. They have no injured personnel or injured supporters from their party, and they're not actually bringing them forward. If anybody is injured during this protest,
where are those injured people?
Through the allegation that is being pointed towards the government. Or the law enforcement agencies that this so-called massacre took place, or an operation that took place, and many deaths occurred pursuant to that, or as a result of that. Then those dead bodies should be brought in front of the public and shown. Those injured people or protesters should be shown. They should come about, and they should come on mainstream media or also on social media, and they should identify themselves, and they should prove that they were actually present at the protest and they were part of the protesting group.
So now we will be precisely asking you. Today there was a meeting which was second in 24 hours, chaired by Prime Minister. And today's meeting significance, it was also attended by Army Chief and all top law enforcement agencies officials, including Interior Minister. And a task force was made under the leadership of Interior Minister. And that task force will be, of course, making recommendations to the government for punishment to those who violated the law. This is one aspect. This is the second meeting, and in yesterday's meeting, it was also decided and discussed that severe punishment under the law will be awarded to these people. I mean, these PTI protesters, we call it violent protesters. So you are since a legal personality, a legal person, also advisor to the Prime Minister on law. Under the law, what possible legal actions could be taken against them, because they are a registered political party. They have a government in a province. So please educate our international viewers who wanted to listen from you. What legal punishment could be awarded in the backdrop of the law which was blatantly violated in the federal capital?
Mateen Sahab, the situation as it stands at this point in time, of course, we've taken all necessary legal measures against the protesters and the leadership. Of course, we've registered cases against them, whether that's pursuant to the available law at this particular time or the law of the land, but also we have strictly ensured insertion of Anti-Terrorism Act and the relevant sections from there. We feel that a situation that was created within the capital obviously fulfills the necessary criteria and the ingredients for the attraction of the relevant sections of the Anti-Terrorism Act, because it was a situation that was created solely at the whims and wishes of the leaders of this political party and the protesters. True. So we are carrying out necessary legal repercussions that they will be facing, but legal actions that we've initiated thus far. What we can do further, of course, we can only work with the law that's presently available. And like I said, we are making amendments to our criminal procedure code. So we will be.
It will be tabled in the upcoming session?
In the upcoming session, it's expected. But of course,
work is underway.
That is certainly very much ongoing, but it's not pertaining to this particular protest. It's so as to improve our judicial and the legal system. But at the time when we've had this situation that unfolded over these last couple of days, we have filed the relevant cases, the FIRs, the first information reports against these culprits, and they will be facing the law because if they feel that they are above any constitution, above any law, or that they are exempt from any of this, then they're not at all, because they brought the entire city and the entire capital to a standstill. But at the same time, there are various measures that are being considered against this political party and also their government in KP as well. Which through a consideration from yesterday's meeting, where the majority had actually voiced their opinion during that cabinet meeting. The imposition of the governor rule, which is pursuant to Article 232. Of course, after the 18th Amendment, it's very difficult to bring about any, so as to implement
then what is the governor rule. Then?
No, it's very much there. Of course,
very much there.
It's being considered at all levels. All the options are being considered, but the option that's the first and foremost is the governor rule pursuant to Article 232. And now, majority of those ingredients that need to be fulfilled as part of bringing about or the imposition of governor rule in that province, it's a law and order situation, because there is a live law and order situation. There's been a huge surge in terrorist cases and terrorist activities within that province.
Sorry for interruption. Has the coalition partners taken into confidence?
We are taking them into confidence, and of course this is not a solo flight.
True.
Despite the fact that the government
would be an extraordinary act.
Despite the fact, Mateen Saab, that the Prime Minister of Pakistan and the government of Pakistan is very much clear and clear-headed on the appropriate and plausible next steps that we have to take. But at the same time, we want to take our coalition partners on board. The first suggestion or the first option would be so as to table a resolution or a proclamation within the Provincial Assembly of KP. And following that, if obviously that does not take place, then the other option is available.
Because they're in majority.
Because the other option we have available is through the federal government. And that's very much on the table.
And what is that?
Which basically permits the President of Pakistan, on the advice of the Prime Minister.
A reference has to be sent.
But that's for the banning of the party. So that's the other step. So I will be coming.
And that goes to the Supreme Court.
That's again for the banning of the party. But this is basically with regards to the governor rule. First, I'll just explain that a little bit. At the federal level, so it's the President, on the advice of the Prime Minister, issues a proclamation or resolution that is then tabled before both the Houses of Parliament through a joint session within the 10 days after issuance of that particular proclamation resolution for the imposition of governor rule in a particular province. Of course, at any given point, it cannot exceed 2 months period, and it has to be renewed, and it cannot go beyond a period of 6 months. So the legal constraints are certainly there, but of course we are considering this as an emergency measure, as something that is a very much an appropriate step that seems that appears to the government at this particular time to be the appropriate measure at this particular time, given the law and order situation.
In how many days we may expect this? In the days to come? In the days to come, I would say, because we'll first have to take our coalition partners on board. And once we've done that, then, of course, within a period of 10 days, the joint session of both the Houses of Parliament can be called.
and by the president. And of course, we can then see a confirmation of this governor rule pursuant to this particular article of the Constitution. But it's no walk in the park. It's not going to be an easy step. And even we might be thinking about imposition of that at this particular time. In days to come, it might not be needed because obviously we see the situation changes from one day to the next.
Exactly. Coming to the second point, you may put light on the legal options to ban a political party, please.
So the legal option...
I would like to add something that in today's meeting, Prime Minister termed that it's not a political party, rather a militant group.
Indeed.
Yes.
And I second his words on this because any political party, and of course, I'll give you my personal and principled stance on this, that as a Democrat who believes in democracy, who believes in the democratic values in the society, will never support a ban on any political party or political person. However, having said that, what PTI has done, or this particular political party has done thus
on 24th, exactly.
Thus far, I mean, all the events leading up to 24th, it's not just the 24th, but time and again,
all other events associated with
everything combined together, Mateen Saab, they've actually made it very possible for this party to be banned because they are not a political party. I mean, have you ever seen a political party with its mob that it brings to the capital, unleashes it, a mob which is very much armed, a mob that has militants and terrorists as part of the protesters, and a mob that then actually destroys everything in the city, whether that's, the cars of the law enforcement agencies, whether that's direct attack on the law enforcement agencies. So, of course, these are extraordinary times. And
ransacking the entire capital, we may say the heart of the capital, of course.
Extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures. And the Prime Minister of Pakistan is very much clear in his head that these extraordinary measures need to take place. And we need to work on those measures. And one of them, again, is banning of PTI, of this political party. Of course, back in July, earlier this year, where we did hear this because obviously our information minister at the time had stated that this is what we are thinking and we are working towards, because this is no political party. Make no mistake that this party is wearing the skin or under the garb of the label of the political party, but is no political party. Now, what we see, all these events in these past days and leading up to 24th, the legal procedure in place is that there has to be cabinet approval. The cabinet needs to banning, and then there has to be a reference that has to be made, and that reference has to be
by the federal government before the apex court,
before the Supreme Court, and then it's the Supreme Court who decides whether they would permit a ban by virtue of this.
They will hold hearing.
So, of course, they can hold hearing if they wish to, but at the same time, I think banning of this political party might not be very effective. Because I think that's probably going to be counterproductive with the mindset or the brainwashed protesters or supporters that they have within their party. And I think the more appropriate, extraordinary measure at this particular point for the time being and for the short term.
Is it tough for the violent reaction you fear, the consequences of this? You are referring to this.
It could be those, I mean, of course, the government doesn't want to exceed these extraordinary measures. And we want to, of course, be within the framework and be within the four corners of law. And, we need to work with that. So, of course, one option that seems a very plausible option, an appropriate measure, is the governor rule. So that might be imposed in the coming days.
And government is seriously considering.
We are seriously considering this because through a majority of opinion voiced through the cabinet members, this has come forward.
Quickly tell us that before 24th of November, there have been background talks, and one of the options was given to PTI to hold this protest really either in F9 Fatima Jinnah Park or Peshawar Road flyover or Sangjani. Then what went wrong actually that these venues were not accepted by party because the government was in touch that they can come up to these 3 locations particularly? Please, Barrister.
So the law, as it currently stands, dealing with regards to any of the protests that might be held within the federal capital, of course, is now limited to the revenue limits or the jurisdiction of Sanjani. So it's only there
within Islamabad territory.
It's within the Islamabad territory, or the revenue limits of the capital territory. And that's only where any political party, any group, anybody wanting to protest or wishing to protest, they can hold their protest there. This time around, they never submitted an application to the concerned district administration.
That is must.
That is one of the prerequisites.
An official permission.
Absolutely. They never did that. The traders, on the other hand, fearing for their economic loss,
they
decided
went to the court,
file a petition before the court. And the court then ordered that no political party or group can actually hold a protest without the legal and valid permission of the district administration. They were hell-bent, so they tried to hold this protest without any sort of permission. Because of the order of the Islamabad High Court, we engaged with this party as government. So we tried to speak some sense into them. We tried to clarify with them, and we offered them alternative venue of Sanjani. And we informed them that this is the order of the Islamabad High Court. You cannot hold a protest in violation of that order, and also without any permission from the district administration. So we are now informing you and giving you the option to hold this protest in Sanjani. And they were very much on board.
They were very much on board.
They were very much on board. Majority of their leadership was very much on board, except a few. And I think that just obviously is a huge mishap that's taken place because of their inability to come to terms with the fact that they could hold it in Sanjani. And this, it's only the leader's wife. And she assumed it upon herself that she wanted to lead this mob, and she wanted to bring them to D Chowk, which of course from day one we've been stating that we will not permit them to come to D Chowk. We will not allow them to come in for a sit-in. But then, against all of these cautions, they decided to barge in, and they decided to hold the entire city a hostage and bring about whatever damage that they could over these last couple of days.
One very interesting question that international viewers may like, and they would also like to listen at the same time, your view. Why every political party wanted to hold demo at D Chowk? In the past, Allama Tahirul Qadri, in the past TLP, in the past again 2014 Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, in the past People's Party, in the past PMLN itself. What is attraction at D Chowk that every political party wanted to come, stage sit in over there, wanted to hold meeting, wanted to hold the gathering, wanted to address? Yes.
I think it's no brainer to answer this, and the reason for that is because you've got your Constitution Avenue there.
Exactly.
You've got your Parliament there.
Exactly.
You've got your Supreme Court there. You've got the Prime Minister's residence there. You've got the presidency there.
Presidency there, true.
You've got the Prime Minister's office there. You've got all the embassies or the diplomatic missions.
All the ministries.
There, and all the ministries that are there. So, of course, it's no brainer that every political party wants to hold it there. But when we held our protest, we actually settled for Srinagar Highway. We did not come to D Chowk.
Two parties I missed, Jamaat-e-Islami and Maulana Fazlur Rahman. They also came.
And I think the attraction is, of course, that's the center point. But because
Maulana
now
stopped at Peshawar Mode. And GI did come.
We were very much part of that in during the PDM time and the PDM era.
He was part of PDM.
Yes, of course. So we actually held it and I was obviously part of that procession as well, and a part of that protest as well. Back in 2022, 2021.
Exactly, perhaps. PDI was in power at that time.
Yes, of course. So we held it at Srinagar Highway, and despite the fact that we said we would come there to D Chowk, but we decided not to. because we did not want to make the lives of the local residents miserable.
Exactly.
As what people have seen. It's not just the people living in the city, but it's also people coming for their, economic gain or work or their job and for their employment. So, of course, we see this as counterproductive. Any protest
Everything
that
is
being held.
disrupted. Exactly. This business comes standstill.
Of course.
Traveling, communication, those patients who are in the ambulances, they suffer.
There are many cases where we've seen, and especially
Deaths.
because my constituency is adjacent to Islamabad. It's in the outskirts or on the cusp of the border of Islamabad. So, of course, I have seen when the roadblocks were there. And, of course, as government, we had taken those necessary steps so as to prevent any sort of more damage and to protect the lives of the citizens, because this is part of our responsibility as well.
True.
That we have to ensure the writ of the state, and we have to protect and ensure the protection of the lives of the citizens of Pakistan as well. But at the same time, I saw many ambulances and many patients within those ambulances that suffered the most. And it's
due to the blockades. Exactly.
Absolutely. But I now, in hindsight, I see as the events that are unfolded in these last couple of days, I really feel that a lesson has been learned, and there's some sort of introspection within this particular political party and their ranks. And they need to realize that they cannot actually just protest time and again, and they need to abide by the law. They need to fulfill the legal requirements as well. But also, they need not play or do politics on dead bodies, but also they need not bring their supporters and their voters and their protesters and leave them high and dry and leave them unattended and unleash that mob on the entire city.
Last but not the least, just to balance and neutralize our conversation, because viewers may feel unhappy the way we are talking, what is the future way out to having legal background, having political background, now part of the government, sitting in the cabinet, because in future every political party will be holding rallies. They would like to hold sit-in. They would like to come into Islamabad. What is the way out? And tomorrow this party which is ruling, that could be on the road, that could be on the D Chowk. What is the way out? What strategy should be there, which may apply to all political parties? Because as you said, that every political party would like to come to D Chowk because it is the seat of the government. So what is basically way out? Any particular designated place like Hyde Park in London? So that could be designated. Previously, parties used to hold their meeting at Shakarpadiya Hills. So please.
I think perhaps in terms of the venue, I would very much say that F9 Park is like the Hyde Park, more suitable place for any sort of protest that needs to take place, because obviously the life or the daily life of the local residents does not come to a halt or a standstill. But the way forward, I see, in this political turmoil that's been created by one political party and the situation at hand is dialogue.
This is important thing I forgot.
Dialogue. And the reason for that is
why it broke down recently.
Because I think there's not much appetite from PTI and its supporters to hold a dialogue with other political parties. Because political problems have political solutions. And political parties and political leaders need to come together to address those issues and find a resolve. By sitting together, by talking and finding a resolve to those issues. Of course, anything and everything can be talked out. But when there's a will, there's a way. We've attempted several times from day one, from Prime Minister's maiden speech all the way up to leading up to these events. We've emphasized time and again for talks, for holding talks, for dialogue. But this party is hell-bent because they didn't want to speak to any of the political parties or their leaders. They just wanted to speak to the establishment. And of course, they've outrightly stated that they have no role to play in politics, and they've got nothing to do with politics. So if there's any sort of talks that need to take place, they need to take place amongst and between the political parties. Now, I think a lesson and introspection, again, I would say, must be done by PT. And I think they will have to probably change their strategy and they will have to think and think long and hard of where and what went wrong. And they will have to, sooner or later, come to the talking table and have a grand political dialogue with other political parties that might be on either side of the aisle, whether in the government or on the treasury benches or in the opposition. And we'll all have to come together to find a resolve to the nation's problems, because one political party might not be able to do that. One ally of the government might not be able to do that. So we'll all have to come together to find a solution to the common man's problems.
This is indeed extraordinary way forward. You have mentioned grand political dialogue, and this is what Shahid Benazir Bhutto has been talking about. And finally, PMLN and PPP reached on an historic document, Charter of Democracy. Thank you so much, Barrister Aqeel Malik Sahab, despite your very busy schedule, and finally a very wonderful conversation on all aspects of law, political situation, way forward, despite your busy schedules, a lot of meetings you held today and also yesterday.
Thank you.
And dear viewers, very important thing, Barrister Aqeel, who is advisor to the Prime Minister on Law and Justice, that governor rule is seriously under consideration, particularly in KP province, because he says that there is a justification under law and constitution and many other important points during this very, very important must-watch interview he has shared with us. Till our next program, goodbye and Allah Hafiz from studios.